What's up, everyone, and welcome back to The Perspective. I'm one of your hosts, Ethan Micheal, and alongside me is one of my normal co-hosts, BrainBug.
Hey.
And then below, her first time appearing. It is your first time on The Perspective, right?
It is my first time on The Perspective.
Her first appearance on The Perspective, Cynthia McDonald. Cynthia, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Oh my goodness, I'm having all types of the technicals with my glasses.
I had that same problem. Yeah.
feel you.
Real quick, we have open lines and we need callers. So, is there a conspiracy theory you believe? Do you have evidence for aliens, supernatural claims, ghosts, goblins, Bigfoot, the chupacabra, a more extreme political opinion, or questions you've just always wanted to ask?
Do you know who killed JFK? Because
do you know who killed JFK?
Where is Jimmy Hoffa buried?
Right.
I've always wanted to know that.
We're ready to find out. So if you know or have a theory, we'll listen to you.
Okay.
And Cynthia, so right before the show, Brian's like, he's like, good job. I'm like, or I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's you got Cynthia on. It's the first, was it the first Tuesday in Black History Month? And I was like, I wish I could say I thought of that.
You didn't. You totally did not.
I wish I had thought of that, because that would have been great, especially to line up maybe a few co-hosts for the month. But I failed to do that. I apologize. Like, I am so scatterbrained right now because there is so much going on with this channel coming this Thursday. Are you both ready for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be quite the event. That lineup. Every time we bring it up, that's all I can think of is that monster lineup. It's going to be amazing, everybody. It's going to be just great.
I am personally atheist starstruck, if that could be a thing, for the lineup that's going to be happening on Thursday. So I'm super excited about that. So yay!
It's going to be friggin' awesome. And so for those that don't know, it's the year anniversary of my channel. It's hard to believe that 1 year ago, on February 4th, I released my first YouTube video. It was a debate between a Christian, myself, and a Hindu, which was really good and fun. But I look back on it and I was like, oh, wow, the quality, the questions, one of the people was in the car. And now it's polar opposite. Like, I want video and audio quality to be pristine. But it's been a really good experience over this past year. So to mark that, we're doing a fundraiser for recovering from religion. And we are trying to get to our $5,000 goal. And if you want to help with that $5,000 goal, there is a link in the description to donate now. You could donate as little as $5, as much as $500. But some of the guests we do have lined up, we've got Seth Andrews, Dr. Daryl Ray, Randolph Richardson, Chris Shelton, Godless Engineer, Vila Bianca, Eric Murphy, Genetically Modified Skeptic, Aaron Ra, Objectively Dan, Holy Kool-Aid. Like, the list of people that are partaking in this event just goes on and on. Some of the best and some of your most favorite names in the atheist community will be here. And additionally, we even have Christians that are joining the fight. Yes, you heard it right. I'm not misspeaking. There are Christians that are on the same page and know and understand that religion can be harmful. And it is those people we need to help. And if you want to learn more about recovering from religion, there is a link in the description as well, and you can read all about it. They constantly need more volunteers to help out within the community, because they are getting calls constantly of people who are suffering from religious traumas. And it's unfortunate. And those people really do need your help. Anyways, are you both ready? Or Cynthia, are you ready to take your first call?
I would definitely say, what is this? My epistemology cherry popping moment.
Well, I don't know how much you'll get to practice it on this first caller, because it does sound like they have similar stance as us. And typically I try and get people who have opposing views, but I think this is a good call. So I would like to welcome the first caller for tonight. Felix, you are on with Cynthia and Brian. How you doing?
Hey, Felix.
Hi, Felix.
Hey,
Hey.
hi. Nice to meet you, Cynthia and Brian, or to be talking with you at least.
Yeah. We're glad you're going to call us and talk to us about some conspiracy theory stuff. So,
Oh, I
Yeah.
am super excited you're about to talk about conspiracy theories. Let's hear it.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying that, like, to establish what a conspiracy is, you know, like, a lot of people use the word conspiracy theory pejoratively, and I think that you have to separate what is an actual conspiracy from what is a completely insane, off-the-rails delusion. You know, like, the mafia is an actual conspiracy. They're not made-up delusion. They act in concert to affect laws, to commit crimes, to gain money. And they're real. And we all accept that they're real now. But till the death of J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI didn't admit they existed. So that's like a good example of why you can think that conspiracies are real. The Tuskegee Airmen experiments, those were actual conspiracies. MK Ultra.
MK Ultra turned out to be a real thing, didn't it?
yeah, that's what he's talking about is conspiracies that the exception that makes the rule, so to speak.
I think that brings in the interesting question is when is the time to believe something? Because, or when is a good time to start believing something? Because there are plenty of, let's say, off the walls conspiracy theories that don't really stand up when you look at them closely. And let's to give you an example, there is a large portion of this country that thinks the election is fraudulent. Now, I'm not saying the election was not fraudulent. I'm simply saying I don't see enough evidence to conclude that it was fraudulent. Did I do that right, or did I?
Fair point.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm with you.
And why people have that delusion, and I think part of the reason why people have that delusion is because a lot of people don't have very good critical thinking skills, and it's not taught in schools very much. And unless you actually study logic or philosophy, it kind of goes through life without ever actually coming up. And if you can look at something and examine the evidence critically, then you can establish whether it's a likely conspiracy or an unlikely conspiracy. Whereas, like, okay, so I've been researching the Nazis and how they escaped justice at the end of World War II.
Operation Paperclip?
With the aid of the yes, Operation Paperclip was part of that. But you also had the Vatican helping. You also had organized crime figures helping as well. They established a lot of spaces in the world, like in South America. You had when Allende was couped by Pinochet, he would send political prisoners to a village that was run by Nazis to be tortured. These are like verifiable facts. They're not like suppositions or anything like that.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you say the Vatican was involved in that?
The Vatican was involved in helping the Nazis escape, yes. They were not involved with the villa in Chile. Colonia Dignidad is what they call it. But, or at least not as far as I know. Yeah. But the Vatican was involved in helping the Nazis escape.
Okay, now, for the record, I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm going to look that up. So,
feel free.
Audience...
I have no doubts about what I have read and the amount of different sources that I've seen it in. So I don't feel like I'm saying something that's like controversial, really. It's just not a well-known fact for obvious PR reasons.
So after this show's done, I can tell you that's going to be the first thing I'm doing is looking into if the Vatican has ties to helping the Nazis after that, because holy crap, if that's true,
well,
I want to know more about it.
Well, I just did like a really
They
quick
called it the
search
rat
on.
line.
Well, I was just going to say, I just did a really quick search on Google, and I did see like an article that came up by The Guardian that actually talked about how not only the Vatican but the Red Cross also helped Nazis escape. Now, that's just the headline. I didn't get a chance to really read the entire article because, like I said, I just pulled it up. But it did say that the Red Cross and the Vatican both helped thousands of Nazi war criminals and collaborators to escape after the Second World War, according to a book that pulls together evidence from unpublished documents. So, that's
unpublished documents. Have they been reviewed for authenticity?
Yeah, well, like I said, this is just a really quick search. I haven't even read like the article yet. I'm just saying that's what was published, but you know.
All right. So for sake of conversation and continuing, I'll say we'll accept that and go ahead and let you please continue. I got to step away for 1 second,
right,
guys. My dog won't stop barking.
Yes. Speak with floof.
I really understand. Be good.
Go ahead, Felix.
So in researching the Nazi conspiracy and what happened to the Nazi escapes, several of them going into NASA, a lot of them also going into the MK Ultra project as well, some of them finding refuge in other foreign governments. You come across what I kind of feel is like the genesis of where Q started from, or the Q conspiracy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with David Icke.
Yeah, the reptile guy, or reptilian.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, if
do you mind giving me like a little back?
You start following the Nazi thread. You see David Icke start to pop up in there. His strange.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Pop up
Cynthia doesn't know who David Icke is, so she wants you to clarify who.
Yeah, could you please clarify who that is? Because I'm unfamiliar with David Icke.
David Icke is a. I don't know how to not describe him in pejorative terms, so I'm just going to do that. He's a grifter who foments a conspiracy theory involving lizard people who live under the earth who put on human suits.
Oh, okay. I've heard that conspiracy theory before. Continue.
He's got books and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you kind of all know what I'm talking about. Okay, so there are real conspiracies, and then there's just like actually crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these guys like David Icke who are, trying to bring in idiots with this nonsense that's sensationalized. And to be honest with you, I, of course, watched a few videos for entertainment purposes because I thought it was just really off the wall and bizarre. And, the creative in me thought like, wow, this guy can tell a story. But you also start to see flat Earth pop up. And one thing I noticed about flat Earth is the way that it was disseminated sort of reminded me of a COINTELPRO operation. And watching it, I had the feeling that there was a hidden money behind getting that word out. And then when you start to see what happened with Q, or the rise of Q, but with Pizzagate. Pizzagate was sort of the combining of the David Icke craziness and grafting it on to long-held Clinton conspiracy theories.
So do you think there's a link between flat Earth?
I think that the flat Earth was used as the nexus of distribution to get that conspiracy out into the public.
Oh, go ahead, Brian. I believe you.
I just haven't seen. I'm not saying there's not correlation. I haven't seen it. But have you experienced correlation between flat earthers and Q people? Maybe I just don't spend enough time in that sphere.
I don't spend any time in that sphere at all.
What I have seen is the distribution seems to go in that same direction. If you look at one, you will have the other thing start to pop up in your feed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That they're gaming the algorithm on it.
That's a problem with social media in general, that once you start looking into something from a certain perspective, name drop, you start getting more. Your feed just fills up with that. You don't get a different perspective anymore on your social media. It all comes in with that same skew. So it's hard to say to keep what you're receiving impartial.
Right.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is that my personal theory of the crime, so to speak, is that if you take the people who are subscribed to those flat Earth channels, they were also the people who are going to get pumped full of the Q conspiracy stuff because they already had all those pre-generators in there. And so that was how you got that widespread distribution in such a short period of time.
So my question is to you. So are you saying, just so I can clarify, that you were looking at, like, maybe like some of the more extreme, like conspiracy theories, like flat Earth, like some other things that that would lead certain QAnon or even or the existence of QAnon? Like one of the examples is flat Earth.
Actually got started that I was looking at this, and that's why I've made my observations over that period of time, not retrospectively, if you get what I mean.
Okay.
So like, let's see, it was like probably 2014 or so when I started moving into that area of research. And I think probably about that time when I started to see like, maybe it was 2013, sorry, where I started to see a lot of the flat Earth information popping up like that in such a weird way and its popularity. And I think that it was sort of used as a prototype for how they disseminated flat Earth, or for how they disseminated QAnon. Because if you can get somebody to believe something as ridiculous as flat Earth, it's not hard to get them to believe that there's a secret cabal of like Satan worshipping baby eaters who are in control of everything.
Oh, it's actually somehow, technically. Oh my God! I actually recently met someone, and I hope I can get them to call a show, who believes the adrenochrome and believes that Biden is one of the consumers of the. Is that what it's called, adrenochrome, Brian?
Yes. Yeah. It's a chemical that you can get like anywhere. It's easily manufactured. So the whole conspiracy is like
right.
ignorance.
I'm unfamiliar with this too. Like what?
The fact that there's maybe like a cabal of crazy evil people. How does the adrenochrome fit in? And it doesn't make any sense. It's just like it's the blood libel recycled. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
A little bit. It sounds like that. I just don't spend enough time in these circles. My goodness.
So I'll explain the adrenochrome to you. So basically, it's like they're saying that they're harvesting children's adrenaline glands to make drugs out of them. Is basically what it comes down to.
Okay. Is that?
So then they can live forever like vampires.
No,
that's the other part that's interesting.
Oh my. Okay.
I can't ever hear someone say adrenochrome without thinking of that scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, though. So,
right there with you.
We do have. We got to wrap up in just a moment. But is there anything else we missed out on, Felix, that you'd like to cover real quick?
Just real quickly, the thing that I see is like Q is an op. It's a operation that's done by some sort of organization, whether it's a private organization or a governmental organization, I can't say, but there's no way that this is not some kind of a coordinated effort.
Yeah, but you got to think that like the capital rate. Let's use that as their, because that was their big. Hold on, that was their big to do. That was the storm. They were all the Q people were tweeting about before before the inauguration is, oh, the 6th, the storm is coming. The storm is coming. That was the storm. That was their big event. That was, they couldn't even, they took a building and they think that they can take half the country. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that there's any organization behind it.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that there's like a competent ground force. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
psychological operation.
if I can just jump in, you know, because like I get what you're saying is about like what you observe, but I think that something that we should, you know, kind of like talk about specifically when it comes to QAnon and who actually stormed the Capitol, you know, like oftentimes when you interject narratives in the atmosphere, people can latch onto these particular things and have like their thinking kind of warped and believing like, yeah, there is a conspiracy to take over the government. Yeah, other people are coming from different countries and they're going to go ahead and take my place. Or, you know, like a lot of these particular, you know, sensibilities that's not very nice, very PC, very even today, you know, and so oftentimes like when you have like talking heads, especially who may even have like big platforms that's kind of espousing these things over and over and over again, and then we had 45 who kind of helped push these things along, you know, oftentimes they kind of just gaslit these people. Now I don't really see a lot of evidence that actually shows that there is like an organization that's behind this, you know, more so like to me, it seems like this is more like, you know, constant narratives that's being espoused over and over again.
You're echoing really bad right now.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't know why that is.
Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I do think there's a significant part of self-reinforced delusion. You know, the more that you push an idea, the more that you claim to see it, the more that you claim to see it, the more it becomes real and, you know, self-reinforcing. But
the last thing,
I also think that the way that it spread was not accidental or organic. That's just mainly my point. Not what it's necessarily metastasized into, but the initial genesis of it.
So yeah, the last thing I want to touch base on real quick is, and I know I'm probably in the obscure side of this belief, but while I don't want bad information out there, I am becoming increasingly concerned about it all being removed, because now all I am hearing from these people on the right is, well, they're just trying to suppress the truth, and it makes them dig their heels in more. And it concerns me that I wish we had a better way to responsibly let this information out while somehow having disclaimers on it, because now they're digging in harder because they're being silenced. And then they use that as a tool to get through to other people by saying, look at this, they're hiding the truth, you must see. And when you see a headline like that, you jump into it, you're all excited, particularly if you're more prone to believing those things. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence with that. Brian?
I was watching Kenneth's interview with Jenna this morning, and he said something in that interview that kind of rings true for this, and that's that I lost my thread of what I was saying. What did he say? I totally lost the thread of what I was saying. It was an interview with Jenna, and oh yeah, he was talking about how it's better for them to have videos. Like say you want to share something on Twitter and you didn't even open the article, you just go to share it. It pops up and says, "Did you even watch this? Do you even know? Did you look at this before you went to share it?" Mm-hmm. And I think that's a much better mechanism than to just silence it completely. You know, if it put your disclaimer on there, say, look into this. Here's what our fact checkers found about this, but allowing them to share it, but fact checking it. That's my position on it. I like that is a much better and kind of middle of the road. There's no perfect solution. They're always going to feel like they're being suppressed.
So real quick, James, if you most of the viewers are on one second, Felix. Most of the viewers are on YouTube. So if you click the link in the description, it'll bring you over to YouTube and you can see all the other comments. So Felix, real quick, last word in a minute or less before you move on.
I think the only way out of it is to educate our way out of it, to embrace more critical thinking skills, to expand your knowledge of the universe and how things work. And when someone tells you something that doesn't seem to align with what you know to be true about how the universe works, look into it.
Yeah, and that's true about everything. But Felix, I really appreciate you taking the time to call and speak with us today. It was a great way to start the show.
Pleasure, guys.
Thanks.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Have a good time. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Felix. And you know what? I totally agree with that last sentiment. I think that like a lot of us can, get information from different places and without necessarily looking into things, doing research, fact checking, even trying to figure out if the source that you're getting the information from is a credible source. Like all those things come into play anytime that you are, absorbing information before you actually make any type of, conclusions about anything. So yeah, I personally wish that, critical thinking skills was actually taught in schools.
Like if I learned fallacies when I was 12, I would not have been a Christian for so long, because most of my arguments for God were, oh, look at atheists. They believe nothing came from nothing, Or, well, what else could it be? Like I didn't use good reasoning to substantiate my belief. And if I was taught that at a younger age and just taught how to think instead of what to think, I wouldn't have been, in my opinion, not only a Christian, but a Republican for so long of my life. Like I was one of those patriot loving Republicans, the real Americans.
Oh, the guns, God and glory type person.
Oh, I was Cynthia. I was the all lives matter.
Ooh, person. Oh, child.
Yes. What? White lives don't matter too? Come on. Like, yeah, but
when you were in that place, did you have to purposely misrepresent in your mind the message? Did you have to purposely make it out that it said that only Black Lives Matter or something along those lines?
So that's the thing. There are people that shout that phrase that are indeed racist. I, in my opinion, wasn't, but I was making racist statements. And the thing is, I didn't know. Like, had someone like Cynthia, had I bumped into you and you just said, hey, let me talk to you, and you kind of went through like a lot of this stuff, I guarantee it would have been like, holy crap, because I always tried to listen to other people and understand. But I was so invested in Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, and Fox News overall that I thought the news I was getting was true. I didn't understand that I was actively voting against the best interest of the minorities or even the LGBTQIA community. I even made transphobic statements back in the day. And it was like, I look back and I was an asshole, but I didn't know any better. I didn't take the time to look into it, which is a failure on my part. But then also, nobody ever took the time to explain to me what I was doing. And had anybody just, I don't know, had I learned critical thinking skills, or had someone had the generosity to be like, hey, this is kind of what you're doing, let me talk to you about this, I would have flipped. And a lot of times people think, well, no, those people are so far gone. And that's not true. Some people, like some of my family members and friends, when I sit down with them one-on-one and talk to them about some of the things they have said or they believe, we often find we have more mutual ground than we think. Their ideology is based on bad information, and they're making these decisions based off that bad information. And I'm just intent on getting through to these people, not just my family and friends, but I got out of it. And I firmly believe other people can. Now, not everyone, but if we just, as you said, Cynthia, taught our critical thinking skills at a younger age or spent time talking to people, like sometimes if I see a status that's like offensive or upsetting, rather than commenting, I'll send them a private message, because one, that takes down the theatrics of it. They're no longer on display. It's one-on-one. Their defenses go down a little bit. Then I'll ask them if they're open to a voice chat, and I'll start sending voice messages, because once they hear my voice and hear I'm calm and playful, they come to the table more open-minded and willing to listen. But I'm not saying everybody should do that. I understand it can be exhausting, but if everybody maybe picked one person they saw with extreme beliefs and was like, you know what, I'm going to focus on just this one person and give them a little bit of my time and see if we can find mutual ground and help them understand what they're doing wrong, we would be better off. Education is everything. Knowledge is power. And just sending someone an article and saying, here, read this, this is why you're wrong, people aren't going to do that.
You know, I am a big supporter of civil discourse. I really believe that oftentimes, regardless of what your beliefs are, even if I happen to be on the opposite side of you, if we come with clear minds and actually, you know, speak on like why I believe this and why you believe that, it's a lot more helpful that we can come to some type of meeting of the minds, or even to the point where I may see your point or you may see my point, because we have given each other space for that to happen. I've had, you know, times even on like Twitter where, you know, myself and another user would speak to each other about certain, you know, our viewpoints on different ideologies. And we actually, even though we didn't completely agree with one another, we saw each other's point of view. And, you know, and ended up actually, you know, becoming very civil and even kind of friendly towards each other, even though we didn't completely agree. And I think that that's when I think of like a lot of these, you know, like QAnon and some of these other different conspiracy theory type of people coming up, I think that part is kind of missing. Like, we don't really get a chance to actually like talk on or speak on, like, you know, why do you believe these things? You know, what is it that's even the driving force that that has you actually convinced this is this, you know? And then oftentimes, like, you know, when we can kind of get to the heart of a matter, you know, maybe we can kind of see, maybe, you know, this doesn't really hold water the way that you think it does. So yeah.
Okay, and then sorry, Wade, to answer your question, I don't have a specific source right now off the top of my head, but what changed my mind on BLM was it started with listening to more liberal news, learning the fallacies I was making, learning what systemic racism is, and understanding it better. Because additionally, I was one of those people that said, slavery was a long time ago. Get over it. Okay. You weren't affected by it. Right.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hear you.
But Cynthia's ready to engage.
Oh, you're good.
You can engage with old Ethan. Sometimes he post his old comments and post up on Facebook, and you can actually engage with conservative Ethan.
Well, yeah. and Ethan still asks questions, like, you know, when we have, like, you know, our chat behind, like, I came across this today, what are your thoughts? And, you know, like, well, you know, this, that, and the third, and, you know, coming from my particular perspective of being a Black American in America, and, you know, and some of my experiences and what I know. So yeah, again, conversations, people, they're important to have.
Right.
You guys ready for another call, or?
Yeah, and I just to address this last thing. So it started with, I don't listen to the Young Turks anymore, but that was the first station where I started listening to liberal news. From that, I found the Atheist Experience. And once I started learning fallacies, my mind started breaking down everything and just essentially like, hey, oh, I believe this. Wait, why do I believe that? Oh, I'm using a bad reason to believe it. Oh, stop believing that. And it kind of just bottomed me out in a way. And now I just kind of, I'm in a big learning process of my life, particularly because, as I've talked about in the past, the epilepsy, my brain has like a 5-year gap in it where memories are few and far between. And I still struggle trying to remember and think of things. But let's get to, we have 2 callers. This first one is probably going to be real quick, Cynthia. Christopher, I hear you want to say something to Cynthia.
Hi, how are both of you this evening?
Good, how are you?
Well, thank you, Christopher.
I'm good too. I don't know
Cynthia,
if I
do you
was.
recognize me?
Oh, is this my logic professor?
But make it,
But you're on your way. You're well on your way. It's so great to hear your
how are
voice.
both of you?
Good. But did you want to talk about something? Because we got to focus on the not how we're doing. We got to focus on the like conversations we're having.
Right.
You know, I don't claim to have anything substantive to contribute to the conversation as much as I just intended, I think, to call in and say hello. I wish both of you well.
Well, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thanks, Christopher. It's great hearing your voice. Can't wait till we can get back to our lessons. Christopher was whooping my ass, y'all, on logic. I was just like, wait, what? But it was good. It was good.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Christopher.
All right, take care. It's been a pleasure, I think, talking to both of you.
You too. Have a good one.
Hi, Christopher.
Sorry, as much as oh yeah. Wow, Brian, I apologize. I should have said say hi to Brian too.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Brian is there. Wait,
I
there you are.
really like talking to people, but I don't want people calling in just to see how we're doing. I want to make sure that our conversations are as focused as possible with the time we have. Well, as focused as someone with ADHD can have. So
Fair.
I am familiar with this next caller. So I'm going to be biting my tongue and let you two take over.
Okay.
Oh, and also, we still need callers. So do you believe in aliens? Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory that you believe in? Evidence for a soul, God, ghosts, spooky story that you can't quite explain. Are you a member of QAnon? Call us. We want to talk to you. And I think, as you've seen, the conversations usually remain friendly. The only exceptions are probably when this psychic got really mad because apparently she got caught off guard by us asking her questions. And then the other one was when somebody asserted that we had no morals because we're atheists. But outside of that, we like talking to people with controversial and different opinions, but in a friendly way. So, Gretchen, you are on with Brian, Cynthia, and myself.
Hello.
How are you?
Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen.
Good. Hello, Cynthia.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So, what did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about my out-of-body experience that I had after giving birth.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I gave birth and it like really took a toll on me. I was knocked out for an entire day. And the whole time I was knocked out, I had a black and white dream that I was on the beach. So it really knocked me out, okay? And so they moved me to the newborn ward after I finally woke up. And then when I went to stand up, I mean, I almost fainted. They had to give me smelling salt.
I used smelling salts
anyway,
when I
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I used to use smelling salts when I used to do strongman. And whenever we had to do like a really, like I had to do a really powerful lift or really get in the zone, I would grab the smelling salts and be like, and then I go like lift the weight.
Okay.
Yeah, I got videos of me just like
Okay.
Well, anyway, I needed it because I was about to fall back on the bed, okay, in the hospital ward. That's why I needed smelling salt. But it perked me up.
So
A
go
little
ahead.
bit.
What happened? How do you know it was an out-of-body experience?
Okay, this is the next phase of the story here. Okay, they moved me to the newborn ward, to a different section of the hospital where they keep the newborns, because I had just given birth. And it was nice. Like, my daughter was in a see-through crib and got to sleep in the room next to me and everything. And I was kind of still out of it, but I was pretty much awake. The nurse came in and they rolled her little see-through crib out from beside my bed when they moved me to the new ward. And once she got outside the door, I mean, it's just like my maternal instinct just totally kicked in or something. I literally jumped out of my body and ran down the hall after them. And I mean, I saw the nurses' stations on the left and like the hallway with the blue stripes on the side. And I watched as she was rolling my daughter down the hall to take her for a checkup or something. I mean, I was out of my body. I literally jumped out of my body. And then when I felt everything was okay, when I felt more at peace, I found myself back in my bed, in my body.
So,
and then, like, later on that day, I physically saw the hallway, and it looked exactly the way it did with my out-of-body experience. And that was the first time I had been in that section of the hospital.
I have a couple of questions. When you were giving birth, like, were you given like any type of medication to help for pain or any of that at all?
Yeah,
Like,
I forgot what it was called. Yeah.
Okay, so
I trying to remember what it's called, but I can't remember what they put in my IV.
Okay, so they put something. Okay, so they did put a medication in your IV to assist you with pain.
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. I not to discount anything that you said, but I can remember I had a friend, a college friend, some years ago, who gave birth to her first son, and she told me about how she wanted the epidural, like the actual shot that they would give you in the back in order to, to dull like the lower portion of your body. But there was an additional pain.
I didn't have that.
Oh, okay. Well, she was saying that she also got an additional pain medication that they put specifically in her IV, and she said she could not stand it. And I'm not really sure exactly what it was that they gave her, but she mentioned telling me that all of a sudden her mood changed. She got very snippy and nasty with people. And then she also mentioned that she started to kind of experience things that weren't necessarily there. Like, her perception was very skewed, and it was and it took a while for that medication to kind of leave her body. So, I think that like some of the things that we have to kind of like consider when we're experiencing certain things, especially being in the hospital. And I just did like a whole 7-hour surgery, like, a few weeks ago. So, and I remember like when they first like woke me up, like I didn't know where I was. Everything was like weird. And they gave me a few different medications before I even got my anesthesia to go to sleep. And that kind of skewed my perception a lot. So, so sometimes those are things to consider, like when we're experiencing things that are a little bit out of the ordinary.
So I had
a couple of Demerol now that I think about it. Demerol? I'm not sure, but I think that's what. But no, I mean, I had never seen this high before, and it looked exactly the way it did when I had my out-of-body experience, when I physically saw it a few hours later. Like, and I even heard, like, the bustling in the nurse's station on the left, and I mean, it was just so real.
So, would there be any way to...
My daughter down the hallway?
Would there be any way to independently verify any of that, like... outside of just that you remember it happening, to say that this wasn't a dream or a
no, I wish it was. BrainBug, but no. I mean, I know it wasn't a dream, and I wasn't like knocked out completely or anything like that. I believe what happened was real, personally.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I can tell you're sincere in your conviction about it. I'm just looking for something that I might be able to take away from it and say, hey, that's compelling. So is there anything that I would find compelling that you can think of about the circumstances?
Well, I'm not the only person that's experienced things like this in the hospital. There's been other people that have had out-of-body experiences in the hospital. In fact, I heard that they're even doing or have done experiments where they'll put pictures up when people are having surgery or something. They weren't there before, and then like to see if they can describe those pictures even though they were knocked out, like if they had an out-of-body experience. I mean, there's actually experiments about this now because a lot of people have had OBEs in the hospital. I know somebody else who has too. It was one of my English teachers. She had an OBE, but she was having ovarian cyst surgery.
So real quick to answer a question in the comments, Elizabeth, what you do is you call the show, the number at the bottom of the screen, 951-364-2430, and present a supernatural claim, belief in aliens, favorite conspiracy theory. But we want to talk to people who actually believe what they believe. That's the important part. So Gretchen, I haven't yet seen anything that is reliable to get me to the conclusion that out-of-body experiences are real. For instance, when can we do it to somebody where we test it on them over and over and over again? And for instance, put different pictures up every time, and they have to in detail describe it over and over again. A person being able to do it one time, for me, isn't enough to warrant a belief in an out-of-body experience. The most I would conclude from that is, hey, something happened. I don't know what.
Yeah, that people are experiencing
That's your
something.
opinion, but I definitely believe that I truly had an OBE in the hospital.
Oh, we know, Gretchen. We believe you believe that. I, Brian, or Cynthia, myself, are questioning whether it actually happened. So we believe you.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, we accept that you feel you had this experience, that something did happen to you, whether it was something happening inside your brain or something that was actually happening outside of your body. It's kind of where we're kind of, that's the leap that we're not ready to make. So that's why I was asking, hopefully that there was some aspect of it that could be independently verified,
Right.
A third party or something being involved that would go a long way towards validating the experience. Because that's what you find in a lot of these experiences. And I know I'm familiar with like the putting the numbers on the top of the cabinets or whatever, and people are saying that they could identify the numbers. I haven't seen a compelling case of that. I happily look at some projects that anybody's put together of those types of experiments, but I've never heard any that are convincing.
It would be nice to kind of get a reference point for some of these experiments. I'd be like, and I even remember me personally, not necessarily trying to correlate your experience with mine, but I've had experiences where it may have felt when an outside influence was brought in that I had an out of body. I can remember specifically when I had acupuncture for the first time. And I remember laying there and being very relaxed. And I kind of felt like I was in two places at one time. It was the weirdest thing ever. And when they were done with me, the person who, curated the whole experience asked me, did I travel? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's the thing. You get acupuncture, you can travel. And I said, well, and then I equated to kind of like this, dual placeholder that I was in. But then I had acupuncture again, and that did not happen, so it was kind of like, I'm not really sure exactly what would have introduced that whole experience in the first place, but it wasn't something I can duplicate over and over again. So it makes me question even my own experiences being really out of body or anything to that nature.
Okay.
You
I've
know,
never done acupuncture. Maybe one day.
being part of the skeptical community, it really makes you start questioning your own brain sometimes. It's something you got to get used to because you go through your whole adult life thinking at least the way I perceive things, the way I remember things, that's accurate. That's the one thing I can trust. No, your memory is not a recording of what happened. Your memory is your brain recreating an experience as best it can and can recollect it.
Yeah, that's
Well, it was very real to me. I'll tell you that.
oh yeah,
Well,
believe
no
it.
doubt about it.
One thing there are times where I've actually said something, and the second after I said it, I was like, actually, I don't know if that's true. I need to double check that because you just get so
I
used
have
to
no
certain
doubt.
beliefs. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions for Gretchen?
No, this is an interesting observation. I just wish there was a way to verify stuff like that. I really do. I'm excited to look into it if it develops more. Keep us in the loop.
And if I don't know if you're connected to Ethan, Gretchen, but it would be really cool, like if you had like sources that talked about experiments or studies concerning that. I would love to read them, look into them. You know, that would be really cool to find out a little bit more about.
Okay, I'll try to find that article again. I'll post it on Atheist versus God Believers too.
I'm in there, so I'll see it.
Because I know Ethan's in that group.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in all of the Atheist versus God Believers groups. Like there's 2, 4, 5, 7. And I actually stream to a couple.
2,
I think
4, 6, 8, 10.
I think that's where I met you, right, Gretchen?
Yeah, it's Atheist versus God Believers. Yeah.
I still remember your first call. I called it if I recall, the ghostly worm is what we talked about, correct?
It was God and the ghostly worms. Yeah.
The green-eyed, red-haired God. I was there for that. That was.
I think I watched that.
And I still believe in him too. I am very sure about him.
It's trippy.
So, well, Gretchen, thanks for always being a listener and taking the time to call in.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thanks, Gretchen.
Thanks, Gretchen.
You know, while we have a minute and while we're waiting for more callers, we should again touch base on the fundraiser because we are, 47 hours away until not only the largest stream I've ever done on my channel, but I have yet to see a stream with more atheist YouTubers and Christians than the one putting together this Thursday. And it's all going to be a jam-packed 3 hours. I'll be hosting for 3 of the hours alongside Brian and Hannah for the first half, and then Jenna Belk and Kenneth Leonard for the second half. And we have plenty of guests like Art Ross, Seth Andrews, Eric Murphy, Vila Bianca. The whole atheist round table, Tart, is going to be here. Cynthia, Rick Lockhart, the Daily Apologist. There's just so many people, and we're looking forward to it. And man, I'm losing my voice a little bit. I think it's these like 14-hour days I've been working. Like yesterday, man, very long day.
Did everybody catch Ethan's appearance on Viced Rhino's channel the other day? Because that was a good interview too.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I appeared on Viced Rhino just 2 days ago, and after the interview was over, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I didn't ramble too much. And he's like, no, you talked enough. I was worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about. And I was like, whew, I'm getting better at vamping and just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That would do that to you. But no, this is exciting. And I would even encourage people to really support Recovering from Religion. They do a lot of great work. They have helped people so much, just, being a conduit to help you figure it out. I've called a couple of times, like in between my theistical versus atheistical journey. And they really assisted me much with a lot of different resources that I didn't even know existed that kind of, helped me with my transition. So they do great work. Support, please. Support.
Ready for our next caller?
Oh, yes.
Wait, let's do it. Okay. Brian.
So I don't know what to tell you.
What?
Yep, but prayer did work that time, but I don't think it was prayer that worked. I think there was maybe the doctor didn't do his medical
Ryan,
stuff right. Or
could you jump back to the beginning, because we didn't hear what were you calling about?
Oh, am I on the program? Or am I
You are live with Ryan, Cynthia, and Ethan.
Oh my God!
Yeah, good to hear you.
Feeling that happened when I was in the military before I became an atheist. This was back in '66, and I was teaching Bible study at one of the Army bases, and the fellows that were there while we were in training, one of the guys in the bed started convulsing and started having spasms. Whether it was a epileptic seizure, we didn't know. But the end result was that we packed him up and got out into the ambulance and took him to the hospital. We were in a medical unit. We got to the hospital, and the doctor drew some blood, and the four of us were standing around him, and he was there shaking and, going through his spasms. And I said, well, guys, we might as well pray for him. There's nothing else we can do right now until the doctor comes back. And, of course, we did. And then he calmed down. And that was the end of his seizures and spasms. The doctor came back out. And I said, what's wrong with him? He said, well, we don't know, because he wasn't having a seizure or any kind of spasms at all. I said, well, didn't you see? The doctor didn't actually see him doing it. They just drew the blood with the tech, and then he came back out to give us the diagnosis. So he didn't actually see the guy in the spasms, but he said, we checked the blood for the markers that show when you have muscle spasms or if you have an epileptic seizure. And we could not find anything, and he did not have any kind of seizure or spasms or anything. And all three of us just looked at each other because we saw it, but we couldn't explain. I mean, it was definitely divine intervention. There's no other explanation for it, obviously. Now, either the doctor screwed up or the tech screwed up when they checked the blood or something, but we saw what was going on, but yet they couldn't find any proof that he had a seizure.
Did that help you hold on to your belief?
Say again?
Did that help you to hold on to your belief for longer, to have that experience?
Well, better believe it. Well, yeah, of course. I wasn't an atheist that time, especially being in the military. There are no atheists in foxholes. So,
and I do. You said
definitely strengthened our faith and our belief, and had no problems in being able to expound that story to everybody else to let them know, obviously what happened. So I don't know what the conclusion would be as far as what was going on, because there was no other way that we could determine, and that would, at the hospital, the doctors determined what was going on either.
Well, let me. May I ask you a question? I don't know if you said this like while you were talking about your experience. Did you say that you were an atheist now or no?
Oh yeah, I'm an atheist now, a soft atheist, obviously.
Okay, so what was it?
Now, but back then, even as I look back at it, it was very strange.
Okay, so may I also ask?
I can define, but it doesn't.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but I know that there's like a delay that's going on between the callers and ourselves. But may I also ask you, what, having that particular experience that you kind of held on to that, kept you at least believing in God, what was the thing or the different events that kind of changed your mind to being what you call a soft atheist?
The first doubt I had was when the military showed the movie, The Greatest Story Ever Told, with Sal Mineo was the guy that Christ healed. And he said to him, the guy that was healed said to Christ, and was thanked him. It's in the movie. That's how they had it scripted. And then Jesus said to him, "No, you healed yourself. I didn't heal you." And for some reason, that stuck with me and created quite a bit of a doubt, regardless of the fact that I was teaching Bible studies. And that idea that he healed himself instead of the fact that it was Christ that did it.
So let's.
That was quite a unnerving experience in that situation.
Mhm.
So, but
And then finally,
if I'm hang on.
when I
Excuse me,
started
Brian,
investigating things in the Skeptic's Annotated Bible, and that started to break it down even further.
Okay. Brian, I'm sorry I had to mute you. I really don't like muting people, but what I did want to ask you for the last question is, are you convinced this was something supernatural? Because I know typically atheists atheism is the answer to just one question: is there a God or not? But it holds no worldview on anything else. So, do you hold any supernatural beliefs or think something supernatural happened?
Oh no, there's nothing supernatural that I would give any credibility to. I don't even know how you would measure it.
Right.
So it can't exist until we can find some way to actually substantiate it.
And then it's not supernatural anymore, right?
Right. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you for taking the
They're
time
doing experiments with meditation and people that were trying to interfere with the double slit experiment to see if people that are concentrating and meditating and using that to try to interfere with the double slit experiment inside a closed container. But that's the closest thing that I've ever heard of that would even try to get close to trying to measure any kind of supernatural.
Sorry, I had to mute you again because we're getting a huge delay with you. It seems like when we're saying things, you're not hearing them for about like 10 seconds. So unfortunately, when there's a delay, that doesn't make for the best conversations, but I really appreciate you taking the time to call in, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. I want to say about what Brian was saying there. It is a good example of something, and I have experiences like that from when I was more of a believer. I was never a theist, but there was stuff I believed in. And I have experiences that I would convince myself was some kind of supernatural or unnatural experience at the time it was happening. But now I look back on it and I'm saying, was this something I was convincing myself was real? So it's kind of interesting to look back at the things that convinced you once you're not convinced anymore and kind of break them down and try to figure out what happened in the past.
Yeah. All right. You ready to go on to our next caller?
Sure. Yeah, let's have it.
There's no delay, but I also want to take the time to thank. This is the first time we have call screeners helping us out in the background. So thank you so much to both of you. It's really awesome. I've definitely been trying to find more call screeners. So if you're interested in volunteering, I'm looking for call screeners every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time, every Thursday from about 9 to 10:30 p.m. Central Time, and then every Sunday with Jenna Belk from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay, so this next caller, Catholic traditionalist, you're on with Brian, Cynthia, and Ethan.
Hello, how you doing, guys?
Hi there. How are you?
Hello.
Oh, very good, very good. How you doing? So you guys, you don't believe in the supernatural, correct?
Right. I'm not convinced of the supernatural.
Right.
Correct. But
okay.
I'd like to
define what supernatural is to you?
Super nature, like anything, ghosts, ghouls, God, anything that I guess can't really be explained in a natural way. I don't even know if that's the best way
okay. So let me ask you this question. If, let's say you were to go into the Amityville horror house, the haunted house, are you familiar with, have you ever seen the movie Amityville Horror?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I read the book still.
Yep.
Well, let's say you were to go into a home that home or a home like it that had reported paranormal activity. And let's just say you went in at around 3 a.m. because that's, some say that's the time when demons are most active because it's
The
opposite
witching
when
hour,
Christ
yes,
Jesus died on
indeed.
the cross.
Yes.
I'm down. Let's do that.
And
Yeah, let's go ahead.
so let's say, okay, I keep hearing things. I'm trying to, put out my question, but I keep hearing things. If I could get my question out. So let's say that you're in the home at 3 a.m. and you break out a Ouija board and you attempt to communicate with spirits that you don't actually believe exist, but you're doing it sort of as a test. And the Ouija board, you take your hand off of that, whatever that little thing is that they move around on the Ouija board, and it starts moving on its own, and it actually starts. Okay, I'm hearing somebody. Is someone speaking? I'm trying to get my question. I'm putting forth my hypothetical, and so I keep hearing other people speak, and I can't get my
just so you know,
out if
this is
people are going to interrupt me.
Dialogue. So you had said the piece, and Brian was just saying what the name of the piece was.
Yeah, I was just telling you what it was called. It's a planchette. Just so when you lay out your premise, you can use that word.
Yeah, if I can get my hypothetical out without being interrupted, it would go a lot faster. So anyway, whatever that piece is, whatever name, I don't really care about the name of it. So it's moving around on its own, and it's actually forming sentences, and it's communicating with you. And as it's communicating with you, it says you ask it to go ahead and, let's say, move a dish or whatever, some object in the living room or the kitchen, a specific item, and it says yes, it'll do that, and then it does that. Okay, you see the item move. Would you tend, even if you don't believe that it's proof for the supernatural, would you at least hold that it gives credibility towards the supernatural?
Yeah, I would consider that evidence. I would definitely consider that evidence. I would want to perform further tests, of course, but that would be a good startup evidence for the supernatural existing.
I agree.
Great. So there's plenty of videos out there whereby things have been seen moving around and videos of, strange events with regards to when people are actually engaging with the Ouija board and so forth. If those things that are on these videos are not hoaxes, then would you then also agree that, or would you also stand by your claim that it adds credibility towards the supernatural?
If I may, I know I can't really speak for anyone else when it comes to, what they would hold with credence concerning supernatural versus not. But I am a person who likes to be able to test things and to experience things for myself before I would say this is a thing. Right. So because even
that's not answering my question. That's not an answer to my question. There's plenty of videos whereby it's caught on the videos. Things moving on.
I don't like muting people. So if you're going to get mad at other people cutting you off when they were just clarifying, and now you're going to proceed to cut her off when she's trying to complete a sentence, and then when I respond to you, and both of us are trying to finish, you keep talking. So,
Catholic traditionalist, just real quick, there is a delay on here, so that's probably a lot of why we're stepping on each other. There's about a probably 3 to 5 second delay between you and us. So I apologize if it feels like we're talking over you, but we're not.
Right.
We're trying to engage with you.
Right.
So go ahead.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, so the thing is, whoever this woman was, she wasn't actually answering my specific question. She was dodging. So if any of you could answer my specific question with regards to the videos, if they're not hoaxes, okay, because many atheists will say, they're hoaxes. But if they're not hoaxes, and the same scenario with regards to the Ouija boards take place, and things are moving and so forth, strange events with regards to all of that take place on the videos, then will you remain consistent in saying that this is credible evidence towards the supernatural?
Yeah, if
So
we
I
can
will-
confirm the. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. The woman is me, and my name is Cynthia. Hi, how are you? And secondly, we would have to go with, are there hoaxes or not? Because, you know, there are ways to manipulate video when it comes to content to see if something is real or not.
My question was if they're not hoaxes. No.
Okay.
My question
Yeah,
was if they're not hoaxes.
And
Okay?
I heard.
My question that I posed.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, I heard you. And I'm saying that we still would have to verify if these were not hoaxes. That's what I was saying. If it got to the point,
that my
sir.
question in the hypothetical that I'm posing, are you familiar? Do you know the definition of a hypothetical? Are you familiar with what a hypothetical is?
Okay. Hey, can I ask you a very just honest question? Why do you, Darth Dawkins and Mr. Batman, call all these shows and look for gotchas and are just rude and assholes to people? Like, why not just be respectful and nice?
We're nice. We're friendly. We're the friendly neighborhood
I'm not
atheists.
being rude. Yeah, there's nothing in what I'm saying. You asked me a question. Do you want my answer?
I understand you think you're not being rude, but again, you got to understand you are being rude. And I think the comment section would agree, although that's appeal to a populum. But seriously, I can see what you're doing, and you're trying to go for the gotcha. And when Cynthia is trying to ask your question, you just rudely interrupt. Now, we can have a back and forth conversation, but you have to listen as well. Oh, he hung up.
Oh,
Well,
Shucks.
sorry.
to answer your question offline, I'm sorry, was their name was Catholic what? I'm sorry.
Traditionalist.
By the name Catholic traditionalist.
Catholic traditionalist. So, Catholic traditionalist. To answer your question, even though you may not necessarily think that I'm answering your question, but I believe I am. If we were to verify that said things were not hoaxes that were happening in these particular videos, then it could be a compelling thing to say that, yes, this may have been supernatural. But I would still question certain things as far as, you know, how these things particularly came about, and also to see if we can have an explanation to whatever happened to something that could be contributed to a natural phenomenon. One of the things that kind of like drives me a little bit bonkers is that oftentimes if we experience something that may not necessarily be explained right then and right there with something that we can attribute to, it was this, it was that we immediately go to something esoterical. And that's not always the case. You know, I think it goes back to some of our previous conversations about how do we know these things are true, right? And we want to make sure that we are doing the best that we can in order for us to verify if what we are experiencing is this a thing or is it that a thing. And also, when it comes to supernatural, we really don't have very good evidence, like empirical evidence, to even say that supernatural is an actual thing. So, you know, again, this would warrant more testing. It would warrant more questioning and employing different methodologies to verify if this thing is actually a thing.
And, you know, that was so rude of him. Like, oh, whoever that woman is, like, dude, have the respect to know the name of the person you're speaking to, not that woman. And
We introduced ourselves, didn't we?
We really did.
And
You
people
said my name.
They just go from show to show trying to get a got you, and they play victim, and they're never rude. Everyone else is rude to them. And I apologize if I'm a little short right now. I'm kind of shaking a little bit because I just realized I have not eaten yet today. I started working at like 6 a.m. I didn't get done till about 6:15, and then I went right into the show. So I'm a little out of it right now, and it's kind of like I'm a little dizzy. So
I'm
gonna
so
let you guys kind of like control the show, and I'm gonna shut my mouth a little bit.
I'm so upset at you. Would you please go eat?
Yeah. I'm really having a time.
Oh my gosh.
We need you firing on all pistons now. Come on.
Right.
I know. All right, let's get to our next caller. Dawn, you are on with Brian, Cynthia, and Ethan. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you all after that phone call?
I'm doing okay, Dawn. Thank you for asking. I hope you are well.
By the way, the other day we had spoken, and I remember how I told you about those really angry Christians that like go out and attack everybody. This was one of those people I was talking about. Like they go from room to room to room, and they just try and go after people and challenge their morals and say they have no grounding in reality. And those are the people that believe they are true Christians.
Mm.
Well, it was very upsetting to hear on behalf, of being a Christian. That's not something that, we should conduct ourselves as. It should be a true and open, honest conversation. So hopefully we can continue in that direction.
Awesome. So what do you have for us?
Okay. So more of like an opinion, because I've talked about this experience with several people throughout my life. And what happened was there were several times in the past where I had dreamt and these dreams came to fruition. And what do I mean by this? There was one time in the witching hours, I guess you would say, that I had a dream that my whole family was like in a reception line, like my uncle in front of me, my aunt. I can identify everybody visually in my dream, very vivid. And we're all standing in a line to meet a woman with gray hair in a wheelchair with a blanket over her lap and a young 30-something standing on her right shoulder. So my uncle went in front of me. He did his part. And then I went up in front of the woman who I didn't know, but it was such a sense of honor to be in her presence. And I said, "Hi, you don't know me. My name is Dawn." And she goes, I know. You're doing good. Keep raising those kids how you are. You will do well. Then I woke up and I was like, what the heck happened? So I, of course, told my family about it. And I'm like, it's my dad's side of the family. And I'm like, who could this possibly be? Because no one in the family that I ever knew was in a wheelchair that had gray hair. And when talking with my dad, he goes, you know what? It sounds like you're describing Auntie. And now this is a woman that I never met. She had passed away before I was born. Mm-hmm. And then when he pulled out a picture of her, it was her.
So, had you ever seen her before?
Is that supernatural?
Had you ever seen her before?
Never seen her. Only heard stories, but they were never descriptive of her physical traits. Never met her. She had passed away before I was even born.
So where was the picture? You said your dad pulled a picture out. Where was that picture at? Was it an album?
It was in his attic storage.
May I also ask you, Dawn, have you ever, as a child or growing up, ever spent time in like the attic storage, just looking around, being curious?
Playing hide and seek?
No, Right. So I'd never seen this picture before, not like I was recalling something from a past memory as a child. This picture literally just got given to him a year prior from one of his other siblings that they had in their storage, and he had never even shown us it.
That's interesting. It's was it almost like a deja vu kind of feeling when you saw the photo? Like that's.
Oh no, I knew without certainty that was the person in my dream. It was very vivid when I speak about the dream. I could tell her facial features, her cheekbones. It was, for me, very abnormal to dream so vividly. this isn't the first time that it happened where something like this occurred. It was definitely like the third time. And I'm just curious. Now, I say I'm a Christian. I'm a born-again Christian about 4 years ago. This all happened prior to where I was living a nice bartending life, going out in the clubs, stuff like that. And ever since I became a born-again Christian, I no longer have these type of dreams, which I'm curious about.
So here's my question. How do you know, like, for instance, our brains can complete things or put pieces together? You could have in your dream seen somebody with similar appearances. And then once you saw that person in real life or the picture, your brain all of a sudden connected all these dots and made it that person.
It's called cryptomnesia.
How do you know that didn't happen?
I don't. That's why I'm calling in. I would like to get an alternative view.
That's okay. That is, those are the type of conversations we need to have. Like, totally honest. Like, I don't know. Thank you.
I love that. I remember I want to say like about a couple of years ago, I was, but pre-pandemic, I was on my way to work and I was on the train and I ended up passing this particular stop that specifically says Chinatown. And I remember this older woman got onto the train and I looked at her and she looked just like my grandma. And I kept staring at that lady. And she was like looking at me like, why in the world are you staring at me? And, and so I'm just looking and the reason being because she looks just like my grandmother. And then so when I got back home, I was talking to my mom and was like, I would start asking her questions about, my grandma and her lineage and all this other stuff. And then I even asked her, I said, could grandma be part Chinese? Like, I literally asked my mother that question. And she was like, I don't know nothing about that, and I mean, and it's just because I had this particular encounter or experience. So, like Ethan said, like, yes, our brain has a way of playing like really weird tricks on us in some cases, and we're pattern seeking beings. Like, we're always trying to complete things when we may not necessarily have like a good picture right then and right there. So it would just be interesting just to kind of see like even though like you mentioned that like some of these things like happened like before, but now they don't happen because you're like a Christian, there could be all types of inference of why that could be. But, but I do know that, like, yes, we do seek patterns and completing patterns all the time. This is kind of who we are.
I have what I would consider a false memory. So for most of my life, until to this day, vividly, I have this memory where I'm in the closet and I am watching myself and my mom play checkers. And I remember when I was like, oh, I first I thought it was a dream, and then she remembered it. And then I'm like, I couldn't figure out why I can only remember it from this angle, but I forgot where I was going with this. Creating a false
memory.
Yeah. I don't have a realistic memory of what happened. I have this thing my brain created to where now I can't remember it from any other angle. I'm only seeing this. And another point I want to bring up is I remember being at the gym one day and I turn and out of the I'm looking at this guy's, like, seeing him from behind. And right when I saw his haircut and the way he was standing, in my head, all of a sudden I saw my brother. This was after my brother passed. And then I started picking out things. I'm like, oh, his arms. Oh, his this. Like, my brain started connecting all these dots to the point that I had to actually go walk around and look at his face. And then once I saw his face, it all just fell away. And I was like, okay, this actually doesn't really look like him at all. But my brain put together these pieces thinking it was him.
I mean, it's a very rational explanation. I work with a lot of the elderly in my job, and maybe piecing together the other elderly kind of formed a picture. But then can I bring up another circumstance?
Yeah,
Another
bring up
dream.
one more before we get to our next caller.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm having this dream, and I'm with my daughter's father at the time. And in this dream, I envisioned that him and another woman were sitting on a throne. And the woman next to him, once again, I get a lot of vivid detail of how she looks and stuff like that. No one I've ever encountered. And my daughter is curled up on her leg as if she was like her protector. And then come to 2 years later, my daughter's new girlfriend is the exact person that, once again, I saw in it. And she is so clung to her, like a motherly figure. And that for me also was like another validation of what are the odds that I'm going to dream this specific person, which was not his typical choice, shall I say? You know, almost the complete opposite, and then have that come to fruition as well. So I'm open for all aspects of analyzing. I've spoken with Hispanic families where, you know, they have their witches and they have their own explanations. I've spoken with Christians. I used to follow tarot, and they used to say it's the third eye. I'm just kind of curious, maybe since you guys don't really believe in the supernatural, how you're like, what your thoughts are on that.
Well, real quick, I just want to let you know you're getting a lot of love from the comment section. They're saying you're very nice and it's a really good caller. It's always awesome when we can have conversations like this. But I've been rambling. So, Brian,
you're good. So, as far as this circumstance, what I think the explanation would be is honestly the construction of. I'm not trying to drag you down or anything. I'm just saying, to me, it sounds like maybe false memories or something like that is where I would go with it. Maybe because it's happened a lot when you're sleeping. The way that the way the brain works and constructs memories is a funny thing. In the way that it fills in blanks on things you remember as you have new experiences. You can put the face of your wife onto your ex-wife in a memory or something. I've had that experience where I'm like, oh, remember when we went here? And it's like, no, that wasn't with me. It's like, oh, I remember it so clearly. So you can really, your brain will fill in the blanks for you if you let it. And sometimes, in again, that situation like I was just talking about, sometimes even when someone asserts that that's not that, this didn't happen, your brain can insist that it's going to put this face on this body and this memory, and there's no way you're going to budge it because that's the way the brain's thrown it together, and there's nothing you can do about it. Saying that these guys before that, it's being a part of the skeptical community really makes you want to start questioning your brain, questioning your memories, question the way you remember things. It's really interesting, and there's lots of good psych documents on it if you're interested in that sort of thing.
Absolutely. I'm all up for trying to further educate myself and getting others' opinions, because when something like that happens to you and it feels so real, and you wake up and then 2 years later and you're like, whoa, deja vu, right? Like, I dreamt this. I knew this was coming. Mm-hmm. You kind of, on my end, do get taken aback, and you're like, well, was that something other? Was this a third eye? Did I, prior to becoming a Christian, tap into some source, right? Not saying that it's true, but it definitely makes you question.
Questioning is good. And but as like Brian was saying, like, our brains, they do really trippy things. Like I remember having like very vivid dreams, and then maybe a couple of years later encounter something that triggered a dream that I had previously. And it's very easy, especially, like I was a practicing Christian for a very long time. And then I kind of like did the whole trippy thing, crystals and third eye and all this and chakras, right? I got really into yoga, still love yoga. But and so oftentimes like I would like go back through like my memories and dreams and things that happen, and start to equivocate one supernaturally ookie pookie thing with another. And but oftentimes that was just me just trying to just figure things out, or trying to like complete the pattern that my brain just like came up with. And it's like, it's really cool that my brain did it, but sometimes my brain is not always that reliable, and I'll be the first one to admit it.
Well, it kind of sounds like a subliminal therapy, and I'm all for it then.
Yeah,
well, there are things and steps you might be able to take to experiment with it. You can, so what condition you're in when you have these experiences. Like, oh, was it a night that you went to bed early? What'd you eat before you went to bed? You can set things up to do a controlled experiment on it and keep a dream journal. And I know it sounds silly, but and that would be a good verification tool for you to go back and say, you know what, I had this dream 3 years ago and wrote this down. Look at it, and it just happened today, or whatever. You can say, look, verification that this was a real premonition. So that's something to consider.
So that is my question then. So if I do this dream journal and something like this happens to occur out of the, maybe since I spoke it out, it may happen again. That haven't happened so long. Would you guys then maybe possibly consider an experience like that?
Definitely, yeah. That would like we were talking about the compelling evidence before. That would compel me to say that this is something we should definitely be digging into. Mm-hmm. If you can produce verifiable outcomes, yeah, that'd be an amazing piece of evidence. I'm not going to even mess around with. That's what I'm looking for.
I will always say that could warrant more study.
Wonderful.
So here's the thing, like why, like for me, supernatural psychics, mediums, they're not consistent. And the best analogy I heard recently was from Puck, who had said, and I'm sorry, from my understanding, this is how he worded it, is that, oh, I hate when my brain does that. Oh my God. I hate when that happens. Oh,
see what happens when you don't eat?
Something that would be more reliable would be if it was like a radio station. Most psychics are like, they throw out random guesses. They get 1 in 10 things right, but it's never consistent. So for instance, if someone's saying they could talk to my grandfather from the dead, like, okay, tell me what he's saying on repeat. Like, we need something more reliable that we can test over and over again. Not, oh, I got this one message this one time, where there's no way to verify that it's actually something supernatural or something happening outside of the person's own head. I mean, for me, I know for many years, I thought I had psychic ability because I constantly had like deja vu dreams where I would all of a sudden be at a place and I was like, I was here. I know I was here. And coupled with the fact that I'm naturally good at reading people, like I started picking out lies at a very young age. And I only recently realized how young I was able to start picking out lies. And I don't understand why. I want to find out more. But because I was always able to pick out when somebody wasn't telling the truth, when someone was being deceptive, sales tactics, all those things, I thought I had the ability to read people's minds, but only I just didn't understand that I had tools in my brain that I was using. I was picking up on their body language, the tone of their voice, every little subtle nuance. Every little subtle thing I was picking up on. And that's eventually when I realized, hey, I'm not psychic. I'm just picking up on things that I don't always fully understand or can explain what I'm picking up on. But rather than think it's something supernatural, I believe there's a reasonable explanation for it. I just may not know the explanation for it just yet.
I told a guy. I told a guy one time who asked me that, do you still read minds? I said, no, I just listen to everything you say.
That's a good.
Repetitive behavior. I get it.
We do have to get to our next caller. So Dawn, it was definitely a pleasure. Thank you for calling in. And yeah, I hope you have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Yes. Have a great night.
You too.
You too, Don. Thank you. Great call.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna try and power through these last two calls. Kaitlyn or Wade. I'm not sure which one it is. Hello.
It's Kaitlyn. He's here with me also. But I'm the one who called in. So if I need to take you off speaker at all, I can.
All right. So Kaitlyn, you're on with Cynthia, Brian, and Ethan. What do you want to talk about?
Hey guys. So honestly, I never thought that I would find a topic to call in on this show specifically. But it was mentioned earlier about Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. And to be completely honest, I'm right in the middle. I don't really understand the reason for, I guess, and I'm trying to articulate my point very carefully, and I guess I'm nervous. So, but I guess my thing is I'm not fully convinced of why it's okay to say Black Lives Matter instead of All Lives Matter. And I want to be convinced if I'm using a logical fallacy, if that makes sense.
Well, I am going to let Cynthia take this one.
Let the resident political Black activist take this particular one, right?
I'm with Ethan. We're gonna step back from this.
Yeah. So, can you imagine? Like she asked this, and then the white dude starts explaining the whole thing. No,
cool.
Cynthia got it.
No, it's cool. So why is it? So I guess I'm trying to figure exactly what you're asking. Are you asking why is it okay to say Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're asking?
It's the question I asked, but okay. I don't know that fully articulates the point, because it's not like I'm saying it's a bad thing to say Black Lives Matter either. Mm-hmm. I guess I was raised Christian, became an atheist about a year ago or so. I do have some Republican beliefs, I would say. I have a really hard time with politics because I'm right down the middle with, okay. I don't agree with or either way. But I guess the main, yes, that's my question, but I don't like the way it's worded, and I know I asked it that way, but I don't like the way it sounds, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do my best to try to answer what you are asking. And one of the things, like anytime that like a lot of these conversations come up, especially when I have it, with white peoples, about what is the difference by saying, why is it that way I can't say All Lives Matter? Like, why is it just like, like this whole focus just like on Black lives? And a few things that I would say is that Black people in America have a very different experience from white people in America. And a lot of it is because of historical events and along with, what has come with those events that even points to Black people's position in America. And the thing about it is that not only do we have, perspectives and experiences that Black people have had in different areas, including their encounters with police, but we also have data to correlate that we ain't crazy. So oftentimes when we're saying, Black Lives Matter, it's more so that saying that we matter, and we should, we should not be, it should not be to the point where what we're saying to you when it comes to our experience in America should be swept under the rug. So oftentimes, like when a person will say like, well, if you hear like the slogan Black Lives Matter, or the hashtag whatever, and then you hear what, well, all lives matter, again, that's an erasure of a specific group's experience here in America, that is not an overall experience that ones who belong to the dominant society have. So if you so it's really okay to say like I support affirming Black people's lives and what it means to change position as far as like what they experience because of historical events and crude disadvantages that they that have adversely affected them through centuries. I hope that answers your question.
Right. I mean, it does. I think that the hang up that my boyfriend and I have tried to have conversations to understand why, because, we looked at data. I mean, this all happened several months ago, for us to start doing our research and trying to figure out, are we crazy? Like, if I'm making a mistake and if I'm wrong, I want to know, So, we started looking at data, and it's like, from what I know and from what I've seen, I don't see where the injustices are in a numerical way, but I also can acknowledge that that it exists, and that there's in some cases not even a way to put a numerical value on it, if that makes sense at all with my position. I swear I'm trying to articulate my point carefully and honestly, without sounding like an idiot.
No, Kaitlyn, you called the right show, because that's what we want to do. Like, we're not here to yell or bash people or wait for them to just make one little slip and be like, oh, and label you something. Like, no,
right.
We're here to help people try and understand. So yeah, please feel comfortable. As long as you're not like, I hate Black people, then outside of that, you're good.
Even if you said it, I still want to talk to you.
Well, I would too, but I would never want to put you in that position where you would.
Sure, that's understandable, but it's okay. I battle on Twitter, but it's all good.
Cynthia, I'll let you answer, but we're getting low on time. So
got you. So Kaitlyn, one of the things that I hopefully maybe we can connect, because like maybe I can share some statistical information and data with you concerning how historical disadvantage and accrued disadvantages have in a lot of different spaces can be have been studied, and we do have statistical analysis and even utilizing like all of this particular data to correlate present position of Black people in America, and even to the point where like we would just experience things on a more disproportional scale, more so than than other ethnicities and races. So maybe Ethan, put us together. I would love to continue to have that particular conversation, because I think that is something that's warranted, especially so that we can get a better understanding of other people's positions.
Kaitlyn, I can definitely.
That is exactly what I would. I'm sorry, Ethan. That's exactly what I would love, because I like anytime I try to ask people for things like that, it's not. I think that they assume that I want to disagree with them, and then they get defensive or don't provide anything, and that makes it hard for me. Like, I want to understand from people like you and Ethan and people who will like, and Brian. Sorry, I'm not trying to ignore you.
You're fine. This was Cynthia's wheelhouse, so I'm certainly okay with that.
See, I always I'll message Cynthia and Rick or some of my LGBTQ friends, and I'll be like, so I have a really dumb white boy question for you. And they're always like, all right, go ahead. Because I know there are things like that I just don't know, that in some circles, if I ask those questions publicly, I'll immediately get attacked. So that's why there's times I'll ask these privately, because there are things I'm oblivious to that I just genuinely don't know. And I come from a place of trying to understand. But unfortunately, there are people out there that are always going to assume that just asking a question, or they'll assume you have bad intentions, which sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kaitlyn, thank you. Is there anything else in 30 seconds or less you wanted to wrap up with before we move on?
No, I think that's it. I just thank you for the opportunity and for not being like that,
Of
because
course.
it's not something that I didn't want to bring it up just because of how hot button, is that the phrase? Whatever it is, how hot the topic is, and I don't want to offend anyone or hurt anyone in the process.
I appreciate that.
Cool thing. Thank you, Kaitlyn. I appreciate your question.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kaitlyn.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So, check. I want to get to we are getting close on time, but it is my understanding that this next caller, DD, you wanted to talk about Macs versus PCs, correct?
No, that's not what I put down.
Yeah, it says right here that you were a Mac user over a PC. And I know privately, you and I actually did talk about that. So I don't remember. Were you Mac or were you PC?
Why are you lying?
Well, no, we did talk about that privately. And remember when you invited me?
That's not what I wrote down. Okay, what my question was is how is your atheism coherent?
I'm sorry, Darth. I thought you wanted to talk about Macs versus PCs. Would you? So
you're lying to your audience? Is that it, Ethan?
No, I'm actually screwing.
I'm surprised you took my phone call.
Me too.
Which is nice. I appreciate you taking my phone call.
Of course, Darth.
But my question that I wrote down is why your atheism is coherent.
So I'll be honest.
Would you want to address the question?
No, I don't want to. I know you're probably going to think I'm scared, but I'd actually rather talk about Macs versus PCs. Where are you at on that?
When we talked previously, for your audience's benefit, we talked on at least two separate occasions, and you admitted, not only to me, but before a room full of people, that the atheism as you presented it was not coherent. Okay, so do you still maintain your atheism?
Oh, I maintain my atheism, but I think you're moving the argument just a little bit. I said I hadn't understood
Why then
your
did
question.
you admit that it was incoherent?
So if you want to talk about Macs versus PCs, or actually better yet, how
so you don't want to address what you told me
in the
Discord,
civil
that your atheism
conversation,
upon analysis was incoherent.
Hey, Darth, how about we talk about how to engage in civil conversation?
Why aren't you addressing my question? I'd like to know why you still hold to atheism when you told me on Discord that your atheism was incoherent as you presented it.
All right.
Do you recall saying that to me?
Last chance. Can we talk about how to have civil conversations?
I am being civil. I'd like to know why you
that's not my question.
Do an atheist show when you admitted to me on Discord that atheism as you presented to me could not be defended coherently. Can you answer that?
So here, check this out. I have somebody co-hosting next week that would actually love to speak to you about this topic.
I'd like an answer from you.
Sir.
You told me previously it was incoherent. Why do you continue to be an atheist when you admitted to me weeks ago that your atheism was not coherent?
That's actually not what had happened. I had said I didn't understand your question. But anyways, Darth.
No. We went through it meticulously.
Bro,
atheism, you tried to express it as a lack of belief, that it constitutes an indirect denial of God, but that you couldn't defend an indirect denial of God, right? Do you recall that?
Can I ask you something seriously? Like, why do you do this, man? Why
you can ask me a question, okay? Well, is this a call-in show? You want call-in shows to ask questions?
It is, but I don't
you
like
guys are
dealing
atheists.
with
I would like to know would you like to explain to me right now? I'll shut up. Explain to me how your atheism is coherent. Could you do that?
I would actually not like to do that because that's not really an enjoyable conversation.
So you don't have confidence that your atheism is coherent?
How do you define coherence?
Okay, that it actually is internally makes sense.
Well, how do you know
there are no internal tensions or conflicts or contradictions?
How do you?
Good. That's a good place to start from. So we got a definition of coherence. So what about Ethan's or mine or Cynthia's worldview would not fit the criteria of being coherent with the world as we experience it. So is this a subjective? Wait, hold on. Is this subjective coherence to each individual, or are you claiming an objective coherence?
What I'm saying is that atheism, as it is represented by the majority of atheists, cannot be rationally defended.
Why not?
Now, atheism is either the direct or the indirect denial of God. Atheism is a universal negative. I would like to know from any of the three panelists, how do you account for a universal negative of a not God world? How would you be able to account for any universal in a not God world?
There is no negation. First, okay, so the claim is that a deity exists. You provide your presentation to us as to why that's so. No, listen. You provide your presentation to us as to why that's so, and then we look at your evidence and make our informed decision based on the evidence that you've provided. So it's your job to provide us with reasons why we should accept your claim, not our position to say, oh, well, we're just going to dismiss this offhand. No, we're willing to observe your evidence. We're willing to break apart your case and look at it if you're willing to present it. I've seen you in many, many conversations, and you never really present your evidence. You ask for our evidence. So today, on this line, right now, you have an opportunity to present your evidence. I would like to hear that, please.
Right. Well, I would first like my question answered that I called in about. Since you're an atheist, okay, are you directly or indirectly denying the existence of God as an atheist?
So let me address this, Darth. So typically, people call in and tell us their beliefs, and we ask them questions. And we give them our
So this is a call-in show, and you're not going to take my question?
I just answered your question. Cynthia answered your question. We said neither of those are a representation of our current position.
Okay. Do you lack belief in God?
Which God?
Okay. Any creator God concept, do you lack? You see, that's a bait and switch when you say.
No, it's not. It's not. I need to specify which specific entity you're talking about. Are you talking about a deistic entity that created the universe and then disappeared? Or are you talking about something that's interactive and personal to us as we experience the world around us today? Are you talking about long ago and far off creator God? Because I can yield to deism. I can yield to that and say, yeah, I don't think that anything that we're interacting with right now is supernatural. But if you want to claim that long ago that some deistic entity coughed and sneezed and whatever and created a universe and then went about its life and never interacted with us again, that's fine. I can accept that because it doesn't have any bearing on my existence today. You're claiming that the deity has bearing on our day-to-day life, that the decisions we make, the actions we take in our life today are being judged by this supernatural entity, and I want to know why you think that that's happening.
Well, okay, so I've been muted this whole time. Now, I asked you a question. I'm calling in with the question of how your atheism is coherent.
Okay, so I muted you again. Darth, let's get something straight, okay? This is my fucking show. It's not your show. So you're going to oblige by the rules I set in place. Now, I had previously said I was never going to take your call again, but I'm making an exception to try and engage in the conversation. So you can answer Brian's questions, or you can play your games. And in that case, the conversation won't continue because this is my show, my platform, my rules. Now, feel free to answer Brian's question.
My question. So you're basically admitting you keep on putting me on hold so the audience can't hear me.
Okay, so I'm muting you again. We're trying here, man. Again, my show, my rules, not Darth's show. It's not your rules, okay, man? So, dude, bro, whatever you want to go by, can you answer Brian's questions?
You still with us, Darth?
Hello.
Says he's still on the line.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Darth, are you there? Okay. Well, he is unmuted. I'm not hearing anything. I'm not really sure why. But
We're
hey,
not hanging up on you now, Darth, but we're giving you the opportunity to talk and we're not hearing you. So,
dude, Brian, you handled that like a pro, man. I should have shut up from the beginning.
And I just sat back and just watched the show.
well, it's Darth Dawkins. It's pretty responding to him. There's only you got to be a little forceful. But
I've heard stories. I've heard stories.
He's a legend. He is. Okay, so for clarity, the conversation he's referring to, for complete transparency, one night I got invited to a real politics thing, and I'm sitting there and I am like baked out of my mind, and I'm like, oh, voice chat. I'm like, I'll listen to this, and I click it, and the next thing I hear, so I see YFN Atheist is here, and I was like, yeah, what's up, bro? I just came to listen. So we went back and forth for a while. His minions got a little out of control. He was so courteous, and he actually told his minions to stand down because I was being respectful. Now, he continued with his circle jerk questions, the ones where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really like doing those presuppositionalists. I'm like, it's not my thing. I'm not even understanding what you're trying to ask. And he just kept going to do you affirm that this is a rational negation of God, or whatever the script he says. But the point is, it's not your show, Darth. And there is a reason why most of the community wants nothing to do with you. It's not because you're an atheist. It's because you're an asshole. Or sorry,
we actually had a atheist saying that.
Oh, that was awesome. Can I just also interject really quickly?
Yeah.
We never admitted or asserted anything. We never admitted or asserted anything, Mr. Dawkins.
If I am to steel man his position, and hopefully I am doing it correctly, he believes that not believing in God is an outright denial of God. And the lack of belief, or saying I'm not convinced, is the outright saying that there is no God. I don't know why he does that or why he sticks on the same questions, but whatever. What was your opinion?
Is the problem. He's got a script that he needs you to answer these certain questions. He needs to corner you into making a claim, because without you making the claim, or without him asserting that you're making a claim by saying that your negation is the same thing as saying that God doesn't exist, he needs you to make that claim that puts him in the position of refuting your positive claim, as opposed to taking the natural course, which is him making a claim of a deity and you asking him to support that claim.
Mm-hmm. And I would tell any person, hello, Aunt Angelo, I heard about you too.
Hey, don't put him in the same arena as Darth Dawkins.
I'm not.
Me and Angelo are friends, so we get along great for the most part. We give each other a hard time, but
I would just tell any person, like, I know I'm of the mind, and Ethan, we had these particular conversations, and Brian, I believe that you are too. No one is making an assertion about anything concerning the denial of God. We just say, prove it. If God exists, whomever God that you says does, prove it. Present your case, and so we can take your evidence and examine it to be, most likely factual, that said deity is real. That's all.
Sorry to let our last caller know. Unfortunately, we will not have time. We are a bit over, but thank you so much for calling in. I got to be honest, I didn't think I was going to take the Darth call, but I'm glad we did. Brian, this is the first time you came out. You were like, come on, let's go. Like,
Bobbing and weeping, Brian. Bobbing and weeping.
In the live chat too, I'm usually not that forceful. It's just with this individual, traditional, a Catholic traditionalist is usually in that same vein, but he was actually okay tonight until the end, until he hung up. But Darth, you really can't, you gotta stick to it.
Well, I'm curious if Darth has ever actually convinced anybody of Christianity by doing that, because realistically, you turn more people to atheism. Like, I can't tell you, when I show my Christian friends your calls, they're like just bewildered. And I just, as a humanist, I don't understand why you act like that. Like, why not just be nice, dude? Like, call, go back and forth, just be friendly, man.
Can I just say one thing from my previous experience as a Christian? I was always taught in church from the pastors and ministers and those who are in clergy and around, they will know you are Christian by showing love.
Like Jesus. Be like Jesus. There's a whole book of stuff that this guy was doing. Be like that.
Yeah. What would Jesus do? Would Jesus like ask you if your atheism is coherent, or actually try to bring you in through love and affirmation? You're not, if you're trying to win souls, sir, that way, you're doing a piss poor job.
Don't show me that my way is wrong. Show me that your way is right.
Bam.
That's a good way to put it. We got to end the show in a moment, but Cynthia McDonald, what do you got going on?
We are doing the mega stream on February the 4th with all the peoples, raising money for recovery from religion. That will be Thursday, starting at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on this station. So stay tuned for that. Right?
Since this will be probably the last time I play this video, I'll do this now before we do our outro. Yep, that is going to be this Thursday, 7 to 10 p.m. I'm really excited. And Hannah Vaughn and I are going to do like a 5 to 10 minute pre-show, like a little mini pickup line, since we missed that last week and this week. And then at 7 on the dot.
Did you update everybody on Hannah, by the way, about what's going on? Did she, why she couldn't do pickup line last week, or did she?
Well, I didn't
Yeah.
I don't know if I should be saying that. So, but yeah, every Thursday, Hannah Vaughn and I have a show at 9 p.m. It's on dating, relationships, sex. And last week and a half ago was my favorite episode. We did ADHD and relationships. And boy, was there a lot to say, because ADHD impacts you in every aspect of your life. Whether it be going to the grocery store, having sex, talking on the phone, it's there all the time. So it was a really refreshing and fun show, especially the fact that I got to talk to somebody else who admitted that they could be having the best sex of their life one moment, and then a second later they're thinking about a work email, and it's like, you're just done. So
we'll get you there, man. No.
Brian, what else do you got going on? Do you have any?
I don't know
So-
who you're asking. I'm sorry, Brian. Brian, go
Are
ahead.
you asking me or Cynthia? Asking me.
That's you.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, Thursday. You know where I'm going to be. I'm going to be right there. I'm on the first shift, the first guard of this this huge event. Tomorrow, I have a new video coming out. So watch out for that. And then Saturday, I should be streaming with Paul Kamish, and we're going to look at some flat earther stuff. It should be fun.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Kamish.
Oh, can I add one more thing? I believe that recording with the nonprofits tomorrow. So I believe that our show would be airing this Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So which is kind of cool because that's kind of like a kickoff to Black History Month on the nonprofits. So it should be really cool.
Great. Well, Cynthia, I hope you enjoyed your first episode.
I did. I was like dancing in the background. I don't think you saw that.
Awesome. Oh my God, I almost forgot to thank my patrons, and then we got to get out of here. Thank you, Jonathan, Friedel, Cindy PLAZA, Kenneth, Leonard, Kathy, Letto, JumpandShoot, Ian, Oz, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn, Beyond. All of you are awesome. Thank you so much for your patronage. Make sure you like and subscribe. And what fallacies did we make? What fallacies did we miss? Let us know in the comments, and have a good week, everyone. We'll see you Thursday.